All right. So again, this is just all about how do we squeak out these last, 6 weeks of holiday shopping and then turn it into an even better season for 2026, as well as a lot of things we can implement throughout the year, next year as well. So since we're right in the middle of the madness, today is all about what you can do right now, the quick shifts, the tiny moves, and smart on the floor things you can do to boost the sales this week, hopefully this weekend, and straight through December. So we'll cover how to move product without heavy markdowns, how to maximize the traffic you already have, and how to read the real-time data your store is handing you every single day right now. We all have the tendency to run our reports monthly, look at them after the season. I'm going to encourage you in this last 6 weeks, run them every week and see what you can Scooby Doo out of, what your store is telling you. So, my hope is you'll walk away with a few tactics you can plug in immediately to finish strong and then step into 2026 with confidence. So, let's hop right
Excellent.
into the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about building brand loyalty to increase sales and prevent markdowns. Holiday spending is projected to hit nearly $1 trillion, which is up 4% from last year, which is good news. But that means you're going to have more people than ever walking through your store that we need to convert into long-term customers. The average shopper this year plans to spend $1,500 this season, so they're already primed to buy. We don't have to convince them to buy. We just need to convince them to buy our products when they're in our store. So we don't want to just open the doors and hope it hits us in the face and we sell everything we can in a mad scramble. We're going to try and do it with a little bit of control and a little bit of strategy. So November and December will give you more customer interactions than any other time. So every little tiny movement counts. A warm greeting, a quick assist, maybe some beautiful wrapping. Those little tiny touches build the trust. The trust builds the repeat customer. So you're in front of a bunch of new customers eager to learn what you do. So not only do we want to show them, our fun holiday assortments, but we also want to grab those new people and tell them why they need to come year round. Well, what are our staples? What do we sell regularly, and what can you find here? And then for your normal customers, you're just a trusted resource. So they're coming into you because they know they're going to find what they need with you. So the experience you deliver today is the reason they'll all return in January, and they'll stay with you through all of 2026. So we can go to that next one, Patrick.
Love it. It really is true that, having a great experience this time of the year, everything just feels a little bit better, and it makes you want to come back to that store during the next year. You make a long-term customer that way.
Right. Yeah, because they'll remember you. You got to stand out a little bit. So what can we do about all that? Experiential shopping is no longer optional. It is the expectation from today's shopper. But it's also, ironically, kind of the best and most affordable way for smaller boutiques to really stay competitive. It's a lot easier for a smaller operation to turn in some impactful wow moments, than it is, say, for a Target or a big box store to implement across its different lines. So in Q4, those little moments matter the most. The warm greeting, really responsive employees, small holiday only touches, maybe you've got apple cider, maybe you've got cookies, something like that. Those make a customer feel seen and eager to come back. They don't have to be expensive or grand. They just need to feel authentic, to have an impact and to increase your revenue. So those are things you could do now for the rest of the year without having to put more budget to it. And then, of course, once you created that connection, we need to hang on to it, right? We need to capture that customer data. Retention is cheaper than acquisition. So we have them in our stores. Now we have to ask for that customer data. It's the hardest thing most employees go through, that hearing no is always intimidating. But we need to be sure that we build the systems in. So we're going to build, a quick, simple way to gather that information. We're going to make it worth it. Is your loyalty program worth it? Do your employees understand it? Do we maybe create a fun little survey that will then give us their email address or their phone number? There's a lot of different little techniques we can use to get it, but most importantly, we have to ask for it. And I think that gets lost in the holidays because we're all moving so fast. So your team here is especially key. You know, they need the training. We need to give them the tools to do that. Smaller retailers, we're so happy to have the help. We push people out onto the floor. And there's a shocking amount of employees that don't fully know how to enter a customer into a POS system. They know how to ring up the sale, but they don't know where to go to do that. So just a few little training moments can really go a long way to grabbing that information.
This
Right.
time of the year when you're going to have the most customers in your store, you have to work to make sure that you're capturing that data. So you get their email addresses, you can connect with them, you can continue to market to them. I love that.
Right. And you don't have to pay for it again. You know what I mean? Because there is a cost to that. So, okay.
Yeah,
On this,
asking is difficult, right? We don't want to be like, it feels almost a little
Yeah.
intrusive, but it is very, very valuable. So.
It is. And the good news is that we are all, as consumers, used to being asked now. It's not quite as terrifying for us
Yeah.
to give our data. So we just got to teach our employees how to do it. So, okay. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about, your marketing. Your marketing is already out there. You've already done it for the season. But here's an extra little power move. Whoops.
Sorry. Okay. Not next slide. My apologies.
Oh, yeah. Are we good? Make your experience unforgettable. We're on show up where your customers are. Go one more down.
Oh, yep. Sorry. Okay.
There we go. So
Sorry,
your
folks.
market technology. Your marketing is already out there, right? Like, so you've already planned all that for this year, which is fantastic. But now you can take this next 6 weeks and do a few extra little things to kind of boost that and keep reminding people you're here. So they'll come back in maybe one more time, 2 more times, so we can clear out that product before it hits the markdown table. One of those strategies, ones that I love, is to highlight your customers themselves. Let your customers become your best marketers. You can spotlight real people buying, gifting. You can encourage them to tag you when they're gifting and then share that. Holiday social proof hits harder than a full paid ad in most cases, especially when we're down to the wire like we are now. A quick photo, a short clip, or a repost of their content says, my friends shop here. And when people think their friends shop there, then they want to know what's up, right? They want to be in the know. And so that moves product faster than, you would maybe if it just comes straight from your viewpoint. And then obviously don't underestimate the behind the scenes moments. Employees wrapping gifts, building displays, that team energy that you have. It's all about making your brand feel really warm and human. And those kinds of social hits express that and give your brand sort of that identity that doesn't say, oh, I went there, I did that, I'm done. It says, oh, I went there, but now it might be different. They're having so much fun over there. Let me just swing back through, right? And maybe they'll grab 1 or 2 more things. And then finally, strategically, we need to give them reasons to return. So those return ready moments are tools that carry your customer into 2026. After a season of buying for everybody else, we know this, we all feel this. January sort of becomes all about me, right? All about, it's like me time, it's self-care time. I don't really want to buy for somebody else, but I will show up if you want to pamper me, right? If you make it so that I have a reason to come and focus on myself. Is a good strategy to get them to come back. So things like bounce back cards, early 2026 previews, VIP invites, they're all fantastic reasons to come back. But if you don't talk about them now, you have to pay more to let them know later. So that the easiest thing to do is to have some of this stuff in your back pocket for January, so that throughout the season, your employees, yourself, your advertisement, your marketing is talking about it. So I love like a simple bag talker. Or you can train your employees to say, hey, let me add you to our VIP list because we have this cool thing coming out in January and I want you to be the first one to hear about it. Like, it positions things as early access, not as discounts. And early access feels special. Promotions, the word promotions feels very transactional, but early access feels special, like you're pampering me and like you matter. Like, thank you for shopping with me this holiday. I'm doing this for you in January. So those kind of tricks help. They require planning, and for some, it might be too late in the season this year, but these are the kinds of things I hope, when we get down towards the end, I'm going to talk about the magical calendar. When we get down there, these are things you can backdate and be prepared for so they don't all have to weigh on you in your busiest season. They're already done. So.
Love the idea of having, that social proof of what's going on in your store, making it lively, making, wanting people to come in, and then offering them to come back, getting some VIP privileges for coming back in the first quarter of next year. That's, great way to get those return customers.
Great. And we still need, we still have to pay the rent in January. So we still need to see them, but we want them to feel good when they do come back, then they're a customer for life. All right. So if you want to go to the next one, Patrick, we'll talk a little bit more about your team. Even this far into the season, there are still things that you can do that make a real impact, and your team is going to be your number one helper here. When your team knows what great service looks like, when they know the pace and the tone and the feel of your brand, everything runs smoother, right? And again, we usually don't have a lot of employees at smaller retailers, and as owners, we're often like running out the back door to do 50 other things, and we're not really in control of what's happening on the sales floor. The best way to empower them is to train them rather than just kind of throw them out for the holiday season, and give them the tools to really succeed. So here's some ways to do that. Like it doesn't have to be an hour-long meeting. It could be, my favorite tool was always the 5-minute stand-up. So before we opened our doors and before we opened or switched for a shift, you all stand together and you have, little moments of conversation. We could be high-fiving somebody for making, a huge sale, or we could be learning about a new product, or we could be sharing how hard last night was when 50 people walked in the door 5 minutes before closing. Those kinds of conversations and experiences and daily touches keep your employees connected. They keep them talking not only during that 5-minute stand-up, but also to each other throughout the day. So for the employee that is afraid to ask for customer information, if he hears that, Sally asked this way and it worked for her, they might try it. Or if they even hear that somebody got the rudest no they've ever had, but they survived it, that's also helpful, right? And now you are building a whole team that is representing your brand the same way. They feel empowered to represent that brand because they understand what they're doing. And it also can be a reminder because they're in the throes of the holiday season too. They're exhausted. They're working the long holiday shifts right along with you. So if you just remind them, hey, look, we got that teacher gift in the back that's moving slow. Let's see if we can't sell that 3 times today. Small touch points can keep them engaged. We also want to empower them to make the decisions. Autonomy matters. When staff can fix small problems on the spots, authorize a replacement, fix a problem, resolve an issue without having to call the manager over or the owner in, not only do they feel empowered and will try and make the best possible decision on your behalf, but the customer also sees you as an empowering boss. So they want to support a store that is treating their employees with respect and trust. So it's kind of a double tool, plus it keeps the line moving fast, right? You might lose a penny or two here or there if they make maybe a slightly wrong decision, but it's always worth it because the customer feels good, the employee feels good, and you can't be pulled into every decision, especially during the holidays. Um, Another strategy with your employees that I think really helps keep things moving is to keep them from behind the register. Keep them visible, moving and engaged. Have them walk around and straighten up things. Be close to customers without being right on top of them. The customer, if they just see that they're sitting there waiting for a sale, they feel a little bit tricked, right? We do when we go to a store. If nobody greets us, if nobody's, out there futzing with the store, you just are like, well, wait, they're just waiting for my cash, right?
Mm.
We don't want to give that impression. We want to give like, hey, we're all in this. This is a fun place to be. So keep them from behind the register whenever possible. And then kind of finally, the owner's mood or your mood sets the tone. If you show up calm and warm and festive, forgiving of maybe some of yesterday's mishaps, things like that, your employees feel it, and then they bring that to the floor. They're not, walking around with a bah humbug face while, you've got customers in the store, and that will make the customers linger. They can feel tension, they can feel stress. And so it's up to you to kind of lead by example, let things roll off your back and show what, the mood of the store is going to be for the day. And then high fives. I'm a high five everybody everywhere. Small things, big thing. It just makes such a difference. A public,
You always feel better after a high five, right?
right? Who doesn't? And it doesn't even take much, and it can build that teamwork. And again, your customers like to see it. Your customers like to see your employees celebrated. Your employees like to feel like, hey, this is worth it to me to be here. They care if I sold this $2 sale makes a difference because maybe their sales number, maybe their skill set is in creating the experience and the displays and greeting people. Maybe they're not your top seller. So if we only high five during around sales, we miss a lot of really great employees that offer a lot to that experience as well. So I'm a firm believer, high five everybody all the time. All right. So let's go to the next one and we'll talk a little bit about inventory. Okay. We're about halfway through the season. So now the real win, it isn't about selling more, it's about selling smarter. Our goal is to end up with very few things on that markdown table, right? You don't want to discount your way through December in order to come out ahead because that's going to mess with your margins. And margins are very tight. Like every 1% drop in margin can cut your net profit by 8 or 10%. I mean, it's a pretty significant thing. So we all know that we're going to have to get rid of some holiday stuff, but we don't want to start in December thinking, okay, here we go. Here's the panic, right? Let's start marking stuff down. Protecting that pricing power is one of your strongest levers. So interestingly enough, most margin loss comes from small early missteps, overbuying, mistimed reorders. Maybe we didn't market it as well. Maybe it slipped through the cracks. Maybe we didn't place it correctly on our floor. Up to 40% of those markdowns comes from a planning issue, not weak demand. So that's easier to fix, right? Because we're going to collect the data and we're going to plan differently, or we're going to use the data we're getting to change the plan. So it always comes back to planning. And it's kind of good to know that, just because something's on the markdown table, it's not because nobody didn't like what you bought. It's could be a host of other things as well. So you have to be disciplined because once we say we're ready to mark down, once it becomes reactive, it just snowballs. Your season's over, right? So retailers with disciplined reorders and tight controls on average keep about 15% more full price sales. They once you start, people are looking for the next one and the next one. Oh, maybe if I come back next week, this will be marked down as well. So if you can delay that start, you can, keep your margins where you want them to be. Again, it takes planning, right? Reordering the right items at the right moment keeps you in charge. Maybe you're not buying as deep in, and you're going to use that data in the front of the season to make small replenishment orders throughout the season. And that could mitigate some of that leftover inventory at the end. Inventory accuracy is one of the strongest predictors of profitability. So this year's data is going to help you with next year. So we need to track it. We need to be sure that when our employees ring up our products, they ring it up correctly, because we need that data to be correct. We need to train them to do that. So little things like that, as you build, year over year in your business, the tighter those mechanisms become, the more accurate you're going to be at forecasting and predicting. So, if you buy based on data, not panic, and sadly, not your own personal preference. It reduces over, we have one we love.
Yeah.
It reduces those overstocks, and it avoids the clearance traps. So, stay open to what your customer is telling you, what the data is telling you. And then also, resist the urge to jump into markdown mode, in December. Obviously, you'll have to get there. There is a cost to holding on to product, but if we can delay that moment for as long as possible, your customer will not expect it, and it will keep your margins higher. So
when do you know kind of what is maybe it's a physical date, or maybe it's just when something else starts to happen, but when should you start looking at that, reducing it and going into markdowns?
it's all, again, it's a lot based on data, but usually by December 15, it's kind of over, right? Like we might have one or two more things, but for the most part, everybody's bought the bulk of what they're going to buy by December 15. So you can start that schedule of markdown. Don't go straight to 75%, start the schedule of the markdown. Here's an interesting kind of side story. When I was, in my 20s and broke, my husband gave me for Christmas, he said, after Christmas, we'll go and buy Christmas ornaments for our Christmas tree next year, because our Christmas tree that year was very sad. Great gift. I was super excited. We went to all the places. Everything was 75% off in January. Everything's 75% off, 80% off, everywhere we went. I went to Pottery Barn, which as a 20-year-old, 30 years ago, was the Mecca, right? And I was going to see what I could get for 80% off. Well, nothing was 80% off. It was all 30 to 50% off. But I bought all my Christmas ornaments there because they had set up a display. They kept a display. It wasn't a clearance table. It wasn't a bunch of random baskets that had random things thrown into it. It was a beautiful corner that was still dressed for Christmas. And the ornaments were up and sellable that way. The perceived value, even as a 20-year-old, was worth it. And
Right.
To me, they're still on my tree this year because they are to me so fancy, right? So and they got me to buy them way high. I don't even know if they ever went, to 80-90%. They probably sold through them. So just a lesson, and it doesn't have to all be, yes, there is a group of people that expect to pay, 10 cents on the dollar.
Sure.
There's definitely that customer out there, but there's a whole lot of other customers that we sort of discount by jumping straight to that for them, so hang on to your margins if you can. Weird side note, 20-year-old me. Okay, that's a good segue into this next slide, which is replacement cost versus opportunity cost. I like to talk about this because as retailers, we get we're dressing the store for the holiday. We're focused on holiday. We know we've got this, this Q4 to earn the bulk of our money. So And we're also marketed to by our vendors, holiday, holiday, holiday. The truth of it is, though, your store survives 12 months of the year, and it survives for a reason. And that reason is you're offering 12 months of the year. People like what you're selling. It's working for you, right? So if they come in November because they want to swing through your store with their girlfriends and poke around and do holiday shopping, and none of those things that make you who you are there, it's a disappointment. So while the urge is to buy everything holiday, the strategy, the almost better strategy, is to make sure that your staples, your go-tos, are always there and ready. So, an out of stock moment costs far more than maybe holding an extra in the back room. So when you do your budgeting for 2026, make sure that you don't allocate all your extra cash into just buying the holiday. Make sure that you're going to have more people in your store wanting your regulars too. Okay. So make sure you have them, because we're also seeing new people for the first time. So if they come in and only see holiday, they don't know that you sell these great turtlenecks that are staples for, everyday wear, unless we show them that. So it's a risk. It's all a risk. Entrepreneurship is a risk, right? But over ordering costs less than disappointing a loyal customer. A returning customer spends more and converts faster than losing their trust long after the, season ends. So a few extra dollars in stock is nothing compared to the long-term revenue loss when your shoppers question whether your reliability on your product. So
You're the place that they go to get that object. You want to be that place where they can always get that, the candle or whatever it is.
right, exactly. And there's an interpretation that you can make in your displays and different things that will, maybe show the holiday aspect of it or purpose of it. But they definitely want to see that, what you're known for. That's your reputation. So obviously we know, you're a giant market study in the holidays. It's super fast. It's quick. It's a great way to gather that data. It compresses the buying behavior. What normally we might learn over the course of months, we're going to see in days. Fast movers reveal themselves in week 1 or week 2, rather than having to look at it, month 3 of it being on the floor. Use that information during this holiday season to make the reorder. If you have good relationships with your vendors and you can say, hey, look, I feel like in week 3, I'm going to order this, twosies of these 4 things. Maybe they can negotiate a deal for you there too. So kind of work that system as much as you can to get small, quick replacements in. And that will help you, spread your cash as well. But, and you may have like a few that number 1 selling turtleneck that you carry year round in 4 colors. Maybe you brought in a burgundy and a green in December or in November. Maybe all the green sold out week 1. How do we okay, so we've learned something. Maybe we can't carry it all year, but we know that green is selling like hotcakes. Can we call somebody? Yeah. Can we get 6 more green real quick? But you won't know that if you kind of wait until the end of the month or the end of the season to look back, and then you'll be like, oh wow, we sold all the greens, right? It's a different kind of way of viewing that information and possibly increasing your revenue. So the bottom line is, in the holiday season, every decision is magnified. Inventory just isn't product. It's trust, it's experience, it's revenue protection. When you balance replacement costs with the opportunity cost and kind of flex where it counts, you're safeguarding both your margins, but you're also building the customer relations at the same time, which, is the goal for the whole season. Build as many new customers as you can. We'll jump to the next one, Patrick. Okay, so let's shift into the part of the season where every decision counts, right? The on the floor moves that help you sell smart, not desperate. The goal isn't just moving the product, it's moving product while protecting the margins. So in Q4, they aren't just buying the item, they're buying convenience. They might be buying clarity of a trend. They might be buying a great experience. When you can work your magic and get your timing, your presentation, your service strong and full, the meeting all at once, the price doesn't matter to most of your shoppers. Full price feels normal. It's like me at, Pottery Barn. I was like, well, Pottery Barn must never give discounts. They're so fancy, right? It's so worth it. They would never give a discount. So you're really teaching your customer that the value of your products and your experience and shopping with you is more than just how much the item cost. And that will keep your margins higher. So your best sellers, like we talked about, are already doing your heavy lifting. So keep them front and center, put them, on your promotion tables, visible tables, key sight lines, high traffic paths. Customers look for these things that you're known for, even if they're not shopping for it right now. They love to see it intermixed with that holiday so that the story of your store still shines through. Another thing that happens to us, especially in December, full tidy displays signal value and relevance. So we're starting to sell through everything. We know we don't want to make another reorder. Our tables are getting sparse. Our employees are tired, so maybe they're not folding the t-shirts like they used to in November. But to your customer, it sends the opposite message. It sends they're picked over. Everything's about to go on markdown. They're going to follow those visual cues. So be really aware in those stand-up meetings with your employees. Talk to people about, you can condense a display down so it looks full. Maybe it just doesn't take up as much table space, right? Maybe we're making more room for air, but it's very intentional. Use those touch points, the end caps, the windows, the signs, the staff picks, the reels, to reinforce what's hot. The season is almost over, but there's still panicky buyers out there. So if you can just keep pushing, keep talking about your sellers right up until the very end, you might be the one that they're like, oh yeah, I saw 3 things they posted this week and I could finally finish my shopping if I just stopped by after work. So it all matters, right? The more places an item appears, the more important it feels, and the more important to that product reflects on your store and how it moves in the holiday season. So in most boutiques, a small percentage, usually it's only about 10% of your items drive the most revenue. And Q4 will tell you that. So when you go back and look at your numbers, Q4 will tell you that. Give those winners space right up until the end. Give them the visibility, put your money there, reorder there. And then when you lead with those winners, the whole store lifts up with it. So, okay, let's go one more. This is a favorite trick of mine. The bundle is super successful for you, particularly in December. It's one of the easiest ways to move product. They work so well because they're generally trying to solve a need. So it could be the perfect teacher gift. It could be a quick hostess gift. If you identify what the need it is solving and you market to that, you train your people to talk about, this is the best gift ever for, teachers. When you solve that problem, they're no longer looking at price. They're looking at convenience, the value of being the best, having the best gift, the speed at which they can come in and out and just check that off their list. So it prevents you from having to push a lot of that holiday stuff into your markdown areas because you can add those holiday centric items to the bundles of your staples, and it will both introduce your staples and sell through your bundle or your holiday. Yeah. Usually bundles sell up to 30% faster than just selling each item separately, especially in December. We all think, oh, I could put that together myself, but none of us want to in December, right? We just need to check it off. And
I can give it.
Right? And this is a good way to do it. And you still feel like, you had a good hand in it. And then when you're talking to the employees, they put the big bow on top of the bundle, you do feel like you were part of that whole selection. So it's a win. It always wins. Um, and when you pair that everyday hero with the secondary SKU, the attachment rate jumps up, it could be as high as 40%. So,
Wow.
and then we're also kind of introducing, if we're giving your cashmere turtleneck to the teacher, now the teacher knows where to come to buy really nice turtlenecks, right? So by putting your staples into those bundles, you're introducing your product. So it's marketing, after the holiday season, which is great. Okay. So here's a weird stat. In December, most shoppers aren't looking for cheaper, they're looking for easier. Over 70% of customers prefer gift sets because they feel curated and are time saving in December, right? So it's almost easier to sell 3 things out of a bundle than to sell 1 thing at a time. So maybe take some time to look around the store and see what you can pair up a little bit. And then finally, another way to avoid markdowns is to rotate small feature areas every week. Kind of a merchandising trick is you want to have these feature areas, like in an average size boutique, you might have 3. You might have one at the door, you might have one at your POS system, and you might have one kind of towards the back of your store to guide people back there. And they're generally just a bigger display. They're usually taller. It's a taller implementation than others around it. And it just teaches people where to walk, and you can highlight product there. So even minor display changes can boost the visibility by about 20% or more. So swapping just 3 or 5 SKUs on each transitional spot makes it brand new. And then it's not so obvious to your guest that the things around them are the same as they were last week when they came, right? Every time you go, you want it to be fresh. You want it to feel like they could discover something new. You don't have to keep continually resetting everything over and over again, but if you could get an employee, put it on the calendar to reset those 3 key areas with 3 to 5 different SKUs, the customer will feel like new things came in, and that will help you with sell off there. So discovery
It makes,
zone.
it makes those items feel a little bit more important, being on the spotlight table, more people are viewing them. So
Exactly. And, in the chaos of the holiday, they could have missed it the first time they were there
yeah,
too. So it's just a good way to just keep showing all the hard work you did to get great product in. So, okay, we'll go on to the next one, Patrick. So your floor is a real-time market study during Q4, right? It's super condensed. It tells you a lot of information in a short period of time, and then we can use that throughout the year. Understand retail analytics show that tracking foot traffic, interaction patterns can improve conversion rate by up to 40%. That's a pretty big increase. Simply by optimizing the layout and the placement. That's why merchandising is a science. There's a lot of ways to trick is the wrong word, to encourage people to buy. But in merchandising, a lot of that has to do with traffic patterns and touch points and different things. So some of the bigger retailers are able to invest in some pretty snazzy technology that will tell you when things were even touched or looked at, right? And that's how they collect that data to make smart decisions. In a boutique, you're smaller. So you can use your employees, an observant staff, a quick stand-up debrief, smart POS reporting. You can use all those little parts and pieces to gather that same data. When you combine what your customers touch with what they actually buy, you get real early signals about winners and underperformers. So quick example, you have a bunch of keychains at the front of the store. You notice, or your employees notice, that they end up all over the store by the end of the day. You just keep finding them in weird little spots. Well, why? Right? There's a reason for that. There's a reason why it happens consistently. Is it because it's a small thing and they put it down to pick something else up and forget it? Is it because they get halfway through the store and kind of trade it for something newer, cooler? Could you kind of guess on this and makes an educated guess and maybe try moving them to your POS system? Um, and see what happens to them over there, because maybe what it is they're just too small for people to hold in their hand. And if they could just grab it at the end, they would throw it on the counter and buy it, right? And that leaves them free to shop with two hands throughout your store. It's not always about what the product is. It could be about the way the customer interacts with it during the shopping experience. So having kind of all eyes on that, could increase, your sell through on a lot of different products. So, and it's kind of a fun thing, in those morning stand-ups to challenge your employees with. It's kind of fun. They like to figure out the puzzle of, why are all the keychains at the back of the store, and they'll
Yeah.
start watching for you. So another great way, storytelling sells. And in December, it's a little bit kind of your last ditch effort. We don't want to invest anymore in product or in holiday necessarily. We need people to still come in. So that storytelling, your social media, your marketing, that all can help gather those last few sales. Conversions lift up to 30% because customers buy the connection of that storytelling, not necessarily the spec of the product. So sharing staff favorites, origin stories, gift ideas, how-to tips, those all turn into meaningful things. And, the customer will feel in the know, and that has value to them as well. One study I saw, was sort of surprising, shows that consistent storytelling increases loyalty by 55%. So the more
Yeah.
yeah, it's great at
Yeah.
55%. That's like a crazy number to me,
Huge
but
amount, but yeah.
the more they feel connected to you, the more you're their friend, you're part of their world, the more they'll be loyal. They're looking to be loyal. We just got to help them get there. So, let's see. I guess my key takeaway here on this slide would be that, when you treat your floor as a data tool and a storytelling stage, you stop guessing, right? You react faster, you uncover the winners, you can kind of dump the losers, you strengthen the loyalty, and you keep your momentum strong in those last few weeks, particularly in December, just to get as many sales as you can get before the gift giving season is over. So,
And for you to have to start, marking down or
yeah, making different decisions. But hold out as long as you can, because there's still there's last minute people out there.
oh yeah.
I live in
And
Lansing,
I'm one of
Michigan.
them. I get it.
Yeah, well, Lansing, Michigan, where I'm from, we call it all of the customers, all the retailers call them last minute Lansing. Literally everything will happen at the very, very
Very, very
last
good.
minute
Oh my God.
and last minute. So it's just the culture. Okay, so let's look at, we've done the holidays. Let's look at that Q4 data and see how we can look forward. So, let's see, Patrick, if you're on that Q4 data
Yes,
to
using
drive
Q4
smarter
data. Yeah.
buying. Okay. So when your sample size goes up, your guesswork goes down. So we had a huge sample size, full of people coming into our store. That Q4 data compresses months of behavior into just weeks. So you're not relying on hunches, you're relying on proof. Customer behavior, is clearer when it's at scale. So obviously, the more the merrier. Um, and that data will allow you to be very decisive. So your winners, we're going to buy deeper. Your sleepers, maybe we're going to buy less, but we need the sleepers. The sleepers are steady eddies and they're consistent and they're part of the brand. We're just going to buy lighter. And then your flops, we're going to get rid of. And we're going to
Learn
make a
from.
note. Yeah, you learn from, and we're going to make a note of that next year so that, and we're going to try and, again, a lot of this is I don't want to say it's guesswork because we're using data, but you have to take that data and surmise what it means to your store. So if you can do that in January when it's all fresh, it's gonna be easier for you to sort of extrapolate what the meaning is behind the loss or the win. So when let's see, it's really kind of really all we were here. I think what happens to most retailers in January is they're exhausted. You're all tired. And all that data, all that you've learned, all that's fresh for you, you just want to break from. So I would suggest that you really maybe take the first week off and then give yourself some calendar time to assess this data and use it. Get the feedback from your employees, really try and make the notes. How did the event go? Let's make the notes and figure that out before you lose it in the next big rush into spring. So, Patrick, if we'll go to that next one, one of the ways it's look for patterns in customer behavior.
Yep, there, okay.
One of the best ways you can do that is you can look at your top 20% by units and then look at your top 20% by profit. That's where your real drivers live, in that top 20%. So Q4 speeds up that buying behavior, so the gap between the winners and the fillers becomes crystal clear. That top 20% is your media information. And then we'll make the decisions and the notes for the future to double down on what's making you money and not just what's speaking to you emotionally. It takes the emotion out of it because Christmas is beautiful, the trees, the lights, the fluff, but sometimes the product is not quite as sexy. That is really making you the money. So we just need to be aware of that when we do the buying for the holidays still. The data cuts through all the bias. Your highest performers aren't always the sexiest, but they're the ones that are paying your bills. So keep them in mind and maybe just think of clever ways to try and make them a little bit cooler to present. What are people grabbing first? The first reach is the instinct. That's their thought process. You're watching it in real time. You're watching the light bulb go off. So if you can teach your employees, if you can practice that, what are they all picking up? Even if they're putting it down, what are they picking up? And then what gets added at checkout? Stocking stuffers are what we think of when we think of Q4, but pickup items is what we call them the rest of the year. So it's the same thing. It's the same data. So what are they picking up? What did sell? Was it the funny little gag gift? Was it the keychains that wander all over the store? Was it chapstick that's branded with, some funky artist? What is it? And then try and use that data to morph it into a product that fits spring or summer, because those pickup items are often you're a pretty significant part of your sales at the end of the day, those impulse items. So use your stocking stuffer data to talk about pickup items. And then finally, we all know this, you may love a product, but Q4 shows you whether the customer loves your product. The customer has the power, so we have to listen to them. We have been steadily moving into an entirely different buying group. Most of the shop owners are, of one generation, but most of our buyers now are significantly younger, right? And they're moving in and they're really the driving force behind the economy. So we have to listen to them. We have to give them what they want. That doesn't mean we can't be who we are and sell, keep our identity of our store going, but we do have to be open to how we can speak to those other buying generations as well. And it's usually the hardest thing for a shop owner because we put our heart and soul into the products that we deliver. But the truth is we need everyone to buy from us in order to make the rent, right? So emotion's hard. All right, we'll go on to the next one, which is tracking sales through velocity. So we know what's sold, but what we often don't look at is how quickly it sold. And that's a juicy little piece of data. Um, if we can track it, particularly in real time. So again, boutiques often track these things month to month. But during the holidays, if you can carve into your time to really look at them on at least weekly basis, you'll pick up on the speed that it sold through. That information will become right in front of your face. That information tells you the bigger picture, because maybe our slow sellers, our slow but steadies, don't sell so fast. But what if we accidentally tripped on a trend, like the green turtleneck, right? If we spot it early enough and can buy one more level into it, we can capitalize on that, increase our revenue, and feel pretty confident that we're not going to end up with overstock. If we wait until January, till the end of the month, and we look at it, A, we might not notice how quickly it happened, and B, we might have already missed the green turtleneck trend, right? So it's a speed issue that will give you the ability to open up and make other types of buying decisions that can really, really significantly increase your revenue if you get good at it, and if you're on top of it. It's riskier, but everybody wants to just buy once and go. But with the data supporting it, it does feel a little better to, call the vendor and say, hey, look, I'll take 6 more of those. I'm sure I can sell them. Then, 6 weeks later when maybe you can't sell them. So, and then, double down on your winners. Give top performers the most space and the most dollars. Reduce all that extra SKU clutter that happens, particularly after the holiday. We brought a bunch of new stuff in. We've tried a bunch of product. We've got a lot of holiday themed merchandise. Take the time to reduce that SKU clutter. Look at what works, look at what didn't, make notes for next year, but then bring your store back in January to what you're known for, what you were, and your employees will sell better. The public will understand where you're at in January if it's a nice, clean, extra space, and they can see your big sellers. Okay. So let's go to the next one, Patrick, if you don't mind.
Holiday power moves.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. This is sort of like, this is the big Hail Mary, right? We're halfway through. Let's be real. After Black Friday, we've got maybe a week or two really intensive moments, and then, everybody's getting sorted. So what can you do right this second? What can you give the shoppers right now? Lean into the basics that work. Those quick wow moments, showing up real on social, keeping your team energized and prepared, and leading with the products your customers already love are the way to go. Stay who you are, just do it loudly. Bundles. Those are great ways to create, stuff in the fly, on the moment. Pull a bunch of product that hasn't moved, see if you compare it with product that likes to move, if they work together. Bundle it, talk about it on social, get it out the door before it has to sit on your markdown table. And then rotating those kind of impact displays, those 3 or 4 impact displays that you have, rotate them with product, try and push that out the door. Making it seem fresh and different, then maybe somebody will pick it up. Oh, I forgot about Susie. I need to buy her a gift. Let me just grab this. That's kind of what you have to do in that last 6 weeks, is just coach your customer to know, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And put it in their face. That's the way out before we get to the markdown table. And then, of course, once you've gathered that insight, this is probably my favorite thing to do with the data. And when I used to do it, I used to take a whole 3-day week, and it was like my whole special me time, because this calendar was so intensive. but it saves you for next year. Put everything that you know that's happening to you in 2026 on a calendar and then work backwards on that calendar. So let's say we threw an event in December this year. We know what our attendance was, we know what our sales were, we know what happened. If we want to do it again next year, now is the time to say, well, if I'd have marketed it a little bit sooner, I might have had more attendees. So then look at your calendar, go backwards and note that you're going to market that event on this day in 2025 or 6. Well, if I'd have had one more employee on that event, it probably would have made checkout easier. I think I lost some sales because we didn't have enough staff to handle the checkouts. Put that in your notes for that and then calendar. Then when you work backwards and you look at your whole calendar, then you can take the calendar and say, well, wait, I know I have these 4 events in Q4. So when I'm buying in January for spring, I'm going to keep my eyes open for giveaways, swag, all the different things that make up a party that I might be able to buy at 50% off a wholesale for next year. It just gives you that organization so that you're not wishing you had done it or paying more than you had to just to cobble the event together or the sale together or the marketing together. I used to place an order. When I received delivery, I had calendared out that I'm going to take 2 days after delivery to take its picture, write the little blurb about what it was, post it on my website, and then on a really good day, schedule the marketing to market it, to roll it out. If you do all that while you're immersed in the product, it doesn't happen to you like, oh no, I don't have anything to give away for this event. What am I going to do? It gives you control and it helps with the stress. And it also helps with the delegation of all those different things too. So the magic calendar is probably.
I love the calendar. Yeah. Get it all out there, put it on. And so, okay, I have 3 months until that event. And what are we doing?
What are we doing? Yeah. Because it matters. And that's where we often, like we talked about one of the earlier slides, is it's often planning, not the product, that decreases the sales. So if you can build that planning in so far in advance, and of course things pop up, nothing works perfectly, but you know what happened to you this year. Imagine what you're going to know next year when you know what happened this year and know what happened next year, right? You're just building on things that will help you just get streamlined, smarter, quicker. And those events that you now are in year 3 will be so smooth sailing and so profitable because you've just figured it all out and you've planned for it. So that would be my biggest takeaway there on what to do with all this data that you've just collected. Works so hard to collect. So, and then that's kind of it. That's kind of all I have. I don't know, Patrick, if you want to go to the next slide, but I'm happy to answer any questions or, thanks for having me. I know this is hard to spend time away from your sales floors to do something like this. So I hope your feet were up and you were all having a snack. But I'm wishing you all a very profitable 2026. So.
All right. So we had, and I apologize, I could not see the Q&A while we were presenting. Lucinda Hunter had a question about retention. There was maybe a retention rate stat that you listed off. Do you remember?
Let's see. Let me go. Was that on the employee retention probably, or the
or maybe customer retention?
Yeah. What would she like to know? Would she like to know the source or?
Maybe just what the stat was.
What the stat was. Okay. Yeah.
Let me say it again, but.
Let me find that.
About it being recorded. Yes, I did not mention that at the beginning, but yes, this is recorded. Anyone that has registered will receive a recording. So you'll receive that later today.
apologize. I know my slides are jam-packed. I
Yeah,
I am
you have a lot
also,
of data. You will again receive a recording. So if you wanted to go back and listen to it, you can find that stat. So any other questions? Julie, do you want to give a little shout out for brick and mortar and how people can contact you while people are maybe writing in?
basically what I do is I help small to medium-sized businesses and retail and restaurants launch. So I'm here for kind of the big things and the small things, and anything in between. So I like to talk about merchandising. I like to talk about obviously operations and also scaling your operations to multi-locations if that's what you're doing. So
Uh, Siri said this has been motivating. Thank you. So, Julie, thank you very much for being on today. I really appreciate it. We're going to end fourth quarter really strong, be able to maximize your sales during this time, and again, prepare for 2026. So I think you gave a ton of actionable things here that retailers can go take into their store and make sure that they end the year strong. So thank you very much for being on today.
Good luck, everybody. Go sell.
All right. Y'all have a great day. We actually do not have a December webinar. So our next webinar will be in January. You can register for that through heartonmainstreet.org. So thank you everyone for being on today and take care. Bye. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.